Greetings, Rabbi Boxed, back with Parashat Shavua. We are in Parashat B'shalach, Exodus chapter 13, verse 17 through chapter 17, verse 16, crossing the sea and crisis in the wilderness. So we've departed from Egypt. We are on our way to go to the desert to get to the promised land. But we come upon the Red Sea. Then we begin to celebrate our deliverance after that, and then we begin to journey in the wilderness. So how does this happen? So Pharaoh decides at the last minute, even though he's let the people go, he is going to go after them anyway. And the Israelites are going, and they set out for Sukkoth, and they camp at Etam at the edge of the wilderness. And God is going to lead them by a cloud of by day and a pillar of fire by night. But then Pharaoh remembers he let them go, and he decides to go with his chariots and take his entire force with him, 600 of his chariots, and the rest of the chariots with officers with them. And Pharaoh begins to draw near to the Israelites, and the Israelites catch sight of the Egyptians coming upon them, and they look the other direction, and they see, oh my God, there's this sea. We're going to die. We're going to be destroyed. Moses, why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness anyway? Moses, of course, cries out to God. God says to Moses, why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. Lift up your rod and hold out your arm over the sea and split it, so the Israelites may march into the sea on dry ground. And I will stiffen the hearts of the Egyptians so they go after them. And the Egyptians will know that I am God, because I will rain the water back on the Egyptians. So, of course, that's what happens. Moses holds out his arm over the sea, and eventually, after lots and lots of going back and forth, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? The Israelites decide to go into the land, into the dry land, and they cross the sea, and the Egyptians come in after them, and the Egyptians get killed. There's a story here. The Israelites begin to see the power of God, and they begin to sing a song, a shirah, to God, saying how wonderful and how amazing God is. This is where we get Michamocha as well. And God just, they have this long song. It goes on for many verses, a couple of chapters. And finally, God doesn't understand why they're celebrating. But you know what? They're celebrating because they were freed. Miriam picks up her hand drum and her timbrel and begins to celebrate with them. And there's nothing in the Torah about why God would do this, but there's lots and lots of commentary about God saying, why are you celebrating at the destruction of my people? Because even though the Egyptians enslaved you, they too are my people. But in this time, in this moment, they're celebrating their freedom, and it's amazing. And what happens next? Because of course they can never be satisfied. They get to the land of Marah, and there's no water. Complain about the water not being any water. So God creates a rule. If you will heed your God Adonai diligently, doing what is upright in God's sight, giving ear to God's commandments and keeping all of God's laws, then I will not bring upon you any of the diseases that I brought upon the Egyptians, for I, Adonai, am your healer. And of course, you know the story. The Israelites travel in the desert so much, and they complain all the time, constantly testing Moses. And you know what? It's okay. They complain about water. They come to the wilderness of Sin, and they say, "If only we had died by the hand of Adonai in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots when we ate our fill of bread, for you have brought us out into the wilderness to starve this whole congregation to death." And God says, "I will rain down bread from the sky, so much that they will go out every day, and there will be so much. On the sixth day, they will take twice as much, so that when they eat so they don't have to gather it on the seventh day." And the people still grumble because they want quail, they want meat, they don't just want bread. And they get to the wilderness and see they camp at Rephidim, and there's no water again. And Moses gets infuriated. "Why are you quarreling with me?" And God tells him, "Take a rock, strike the rock, and water will come from it." Why is the story of the rock and the water so important? Because later in the Bible, Moses once again hits a rock, but that time he hits it twice, and that's significant. Because God only tells him to hit the rock once here. God tells him to speak to the rock later on. And Moses hits the rock twice. If he had only hit it once, maybe things would have been different, but he hit it twice. The point is that the Israelites complained. But you know what? At the end of the day, God was there for them. This chapter, this portion of the Torah, is just a story of what's about to come, what's going to continue to happen over and over and over again. And you'll have to wait for next week to see what happens next. Shabbat Shalom.